right, black and white sports supporters. Well, here we are. Are you kidding me? Are we really doing this again? Are we running it back again? Now, to be quite fair, be quite honest, would I be having this reaction if we weren't bullshitted to for 5 months straight last year? Probably not. But if you...
The locker room doors were pulled shut, but the secret was already out. Caitlin Clark wasn't just losing the opening game. She was losing her physical health. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever's leadership was getting tangled in a web of their own creation. For months, the public was fed a story of absolute perfection. But the moment Clark retreated into that tunnel, the fantasy fell apart. Stephanie White's body language revealed everything the front office tried to conceal. There was no hiding from the reality anymore. The star player was in pain. The foundation of trust had crumbled. Now, the entire organization was heading toward a crisis they weren't ready to handle. This was more than just a defeat on the court. It was a complete collapse of the system that left every viewer questioning the official story.
Bullshitted to for 5 months straight last year? Probably not. But if you trust anything that comes out of the Indiana Fever's mouth, the coach, the GM, the front office, any leadership, any president, yada, yada, that is on you. They ain't catching me slipping. You better believe I don't trust a damn thing that's going to come out of these people's mouths. This is the bed they can lie in after last year. All right?
It was supposed to be a grand beginning. Instead, the national cameras on ABC captured the one sight nobody wanted to witness. Caitlin Clark was rushing back toward the locker room. This wasn't a simple break to catch her breath. She was looking for medical help for a back and hip that were clearly failing her while the crowd waited for a second-half rally. The truth beneath the arena was far more concerning. Medical staff were rushing around as rumors of a significant injury began to spread rapidly. Those heating pads and back supports weren't just standard care. They were the first red flags of a major problem that the team's top brass tried to brush off as nothing.
Games last year, whatever it was, you get beat at home. And everybody noticed, including the ABC broadcast, that Caitlin Clark went back to the locker room. And of course, she's been wearing this back brace, heating pad, whatever you want to call it. Yikes. Okay. We've officially got something going on. All right? We've got something going on. What it is exactly, hell, nobody knows. Caitlin Clark on the loss after the game.
Yeah, I feel good. Started off a little slow, I think.
When Stephanie White was questioned about reports of staff treating Clark's hip flexor and groin, her answer was startling. She claimed to be completely unaware of the situation. How could that be true? The announcers on the national broadcast were discussing it in detail. The fans could see the heating equipment on the bench. Trainers were physically in the tunnel with the face of the league. For a head coach like White to be that disconnected or intentionally vague suggests a total failure in internal communication. It looks like the left hand has no idea what the right hand is doing. That specific kind of chaos is exactly how serious medical issues get overlooked until the damage becomes permanent.
I've got no problems with anything she said until she said the locker room was really positive afterwards. No, it shouldn't be after a loss. It shouldn't be positive. If my 49ers, if the coach or one of the players said that, I would be like, you got to be kidding me, right? I hope it's not positive. There should be some anger after a loss like this. Point blank, you lost the first game of the season. My boy CDS, first comment. Shouldn't be a positive locker room.
The bond of trust is officially severed because we have seen this pattern before. Last season was a mess of poor management and false information, and the fans aren't going to be tricked again. If you believe the statements coming from the Indiana Fever leadership right now, that is your own mistake. They have spent months constructing a house of cards, and now it is falling down around them. When the coaching staff and the executives all insist everything is fine while their best player is wrapped in medical gear on the sidelines, you know the truth is grim. They aren't fooling anyone this time. This level of doubt isn't just natural. It is vital for anyone who actually cares about Clark's long-term career.
The injury. Right here, Stephanie White on ABC's report that trainers were working on Caitlin Clark's hip flexor and groin. She said, quote, "That would be the first part I've heard that." Well, they said it during the broadcast. We talked about it in my reaction. They brought up her groin specifically. She goes on about her trips to the tunnel for her back. Here we go, folks. By the way, Wish TV News 8 is who had these clips.
Part of maintaining the body. I mean,
Stephanie White's attempt to explain the injury was even more confusing than her initial claims of ignorance. She began discussing body mechanics and how young players aren't taught to move their frames correctly. Essentially, she hinted that Clark's own playing style was the reason for her physical struggles. Hearing a coach describe a potential injury as a mechanical error by the athlete is a massive warning sign. It moves the responsibility away from a brutal playing schedule or a lack of physical protection and places it right on the rookie. This isn't just a minor pull. White conceded this will be a persistent issue. That is a frightening thought for a player expected to carry the weight of the entire WNBA.
really outside of that.
Okay, you guys know I cover the NFL, blue tent, college football, blue tent. Yeah, when they go in the blue tent, there's a problem. There's a concussion. There's an injury. There's a tweak. There's something going on that is amiss. I mean, seriously. Caitlin Clark said she was getting her back adjusted. During her trips into the tunnel during the game, she said she feels good now. This person said, since when does she have back?
The terminology they are using is purposely vague to keep her off the official injury report. They label it as maintenance. They call it a simple adjustment. They talk about fixing the alignment of the ribs and hips like it's just a standard part of the routine. But let's be honest. When you are only 22 years old and require mid-game back adjustments just to stay on the court, something is seriously wrong. This isn't a veteran like Larry Bird at the end of a grueling decade. This is a rookie in her very first pro outing. If her body is already breaking down this fast, the outlook for the rest of the season looks very grim for the Fever and the fans watching her struggle.
Got to get your back adjusted. Again, I go back, I'm a Larry Bird fan. Larry Bird was my dude. And I remember he had back problems. He was a lot older than Caitlin Clark to have his back adjusted and all that. Unless they're trying to, I mean, I get it. You're trying to be proactive versus last year. But nobody can fault anybody if A, they don't trust this organization, and B, we just saw a whole season that was basically lost to an injury.
What makes this situation worse is the post-game tone that seems totally disconnected from the facts. Caitlin Clark stood before the press and claimed she felt fine and the locker room energy was positive. Positive? You were just dominated on your home court by the Dallas Wings. You allowed over 100 points to be scored. Your defensive play was non-existent. There should be some anger. There should be a real sense of urgency. When a team acts happy after a blowout defeat while their superstar is limping to the back, it reveals the true state of the culture. It is a culture of being comfortable with losing, which points to a very long and difficult 44-game season ahead.
Sort of where it begins and ends on that team. And you got rolled at home. I think they said it was the first WNBA game ever in an opener to have two teams score. I mean, they went for 107 on you. 107. Wow. Strap in. We got 43 more of these jokers to go through. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment.
If this happened in the NFL, that blue medical tent would be the center of the entire conversation. In football, When a player enters that tent, everyone understands there is a problem. They don't pretend it's just a bit of routine maintenance. But in Indiana, they hide in the shadows of the tunnel. They hope the TV cameras won't look. They hope the media won't press for real answers. But the fans are too smart for those games. They see the lack of honesty for what it really is, a desperate move to save ticket sales and TV numbers at the cost of a young athlete's health. This lack of transparency is turning into its own scandal. The team's defense was an absolute disaster, which is shocking given the coaching staff's supposed expertise. The Dallas Wings aren't some unbeatable force, yet they came into Indiana and scored 107 points like it was a light practice. Where were the changes? Where was the fight? It seemed like the team had no strategy to stop the onslaught. When your coach is sold as a defensive genius and the other team sets a scoring record on your floor, the titles don't matter. The truth is this roster is badly built and even worse managed, leaving Caitlin Clark to struggle alone in a broken system. There is a huge gap between what the medical staff sees and what the bosses report. The ESPN crew was very clear about groin and hip flexor problems. These aren't small bumps. These are the kinds of issues that stick around and worsen without rest. Yet, the team claims it's just a routine alignment. This kind of spin is dangerous. It creates a world where the player feels forced to play through injury just to keep up that positive vibe they keep mentioning. We are watching a wreck happen in slow motion, and the people in charge won't even acknowledge the car is failing. The Larry Bird comparisons are happening for all the wrong reasons now. Bird was a legend, but his back eventually gave out and stopped his career. The big difference is Bird's pain came after years of winning titles for Boston. Clark is facing this in her first week. If she already needs physical adjustments and heat therapy to finish one game, how can she survive the physical toll of a whole pro schedule? The league is faster and more physical than college. If the Fever don't put her health over their public relations, her career could be ruined before it even starts. Longtime fans know this skepticism is well-earned. Last year, this organization was slammed for how they handled players and injuries, and they clearly haven't changed. They have been criticized for how they built this team, and the home opener proved the critics were right. This isn't about being a hater. It's about being realistic. When you see a team collapse on TV and then hear the leaders offer nothing but excuses and medical double talk, you have to speak up. The trust isn't just damaged, it's gone. And with good reason. Caitlin Clark mentioned she felt the nerves of a first game and was just a few shots away from a win. While her outlook is nice, it feels like she's being told what to say rather than speaking her truth. You don't leave for the locker room because of nerves. You go because of physical pain. The scoring might not be the main problem, but if the star can't move because her hip is stuck, the whole team will suffer. She is trying to carry everything, but her body is signaling for help that the coaches are ignoring to protect their narrative. Stephanie White's remarks about young players not learning mechanics felt like a direct swipe at Clark's background. It's a strange thing to say about a talent who just broke every record. Instead of supporting her, the talk is about fixing her like she's a faulty machine. This ongoing thing White mentioned means we should expect Clark to be in that tunnel all year. That isn't a way to run a team, and it's not what people paid for when they bought season tickets. The Wings didn't have to be perfect to win. They just worked harder and looked like a real team. They have stars too, but they worked together while the Fever looked like strangers on a court. Giving up 100 points in one game shows a team that has stopped trying on defense. If the locker room was truly positive after that, then the competitive spirit in Indiana is dead. You cannot lose that badly at home and be satisfied. That lack of passion is why the injuries are being handled so poorly. We are one game into a 44-game run and the wheels are falling off. The upcoming schedule will put massive stress on a body already showing wear. If the Fever think they can just do tunnel fixes every night, they are dreaming. Eventually, the body stops responding to temporary patches. The groin, the hip, and the back are all tied together. One injury leads to another as the player tries to work around the pain. We are seeing a cycle that has ended many careers before. The most worrying part of White's talk was her saying many players need these adjustments. She tried to make it sound like a normal pro athlete thing, but that's just a convenient story. If your whole team is out of alignment in Game 1, your training program is failing. It sounds like a problem deep in the organization. They are trying to make a major concern seem normal. Pros get treatment, but not usually in the middle of the very first game unless something is very wrong. Trust is earned, and the Fever leadership has wasted theirs. From the office to the bench, it feels like they are protecting a brand instead of a basketball team. But that brand relies on Caitlin Clark. If she's hurt, the brand dies. If the fans feel lied to, the brand dies. By hiding her struggles, they are hurting their name more than honesty ever would. People can take the truth. They can't take being treated like they are blind. The mood around the team feels like a disaster waiting to happen. When you have this much hype and you fail while your star is hurting, the pressure gets too high. The critics are watching, and the team is hiding in a fake bubble of positivity. You can't smile away a hip injury or a bad defense. Someone needs to get tough and demand better. Until then, it will be more of the same. Losses, vague reports, and angry fans. The TV crew specifically said groin and hip, but Clark only said back. That gap is where trust dies. Why are the stories different? Usually, when the staff says one thing and the player says another, there is no real plan. Clark wants to play, but the leaders must protect her. Instead, it feels like they are letting her drive the story to keep the hype going. It's a risky game to play with the league's biggest star. White's talk of rib and hip alignment sounds like a textbook distraction. It's a classic move to change the subject. By saying everyone goes through it, she downplays Clark's specific pain, but we didn't see everyone else running to the tunnel. We saw Caitlin. We saw the heat packs. We saw the pain on her face. You can't hide physical hurt with words. The more they try, the more suspicious the fans will get. The Indiana Fever are at a crossroads. They can keep being secretive, or they can be honest. The season is long, and it will feel even longer if every game is a fight to keep their star upright. The defense can be fixed with work. But lost trust is hard to win back. They need to stop the excuses and start acting like they know how to care for a superstar. Right now, they look lost. For the next 43 games, everyone will be watching that tunnel. Every time she leaves the court, the world will hold its breath. This isn't how it should be. It should be about growth, not medical scares. The Fever leadership has a lot to answer for, and the positive act is failing. The truth always comes out on the court, where there is nowhere left to hide. If they don't change, the damage could be permanent.